All right, here we are, episode 10. We made it to episode 10 of the Hot Plate, and to congratulate ourselves, a little reward, we have upgraded our technology here. We're using a real tool outside of Zoom. We will see how that goes and if that will continue, but so far it looks pretty exciting. Welcome, Rob. What is hot on your plate?
What's hot on my plate? I don't know. I've done a ton of travel, kind of going out strong with the end of the year. Recently spent some time at the Space Power Conference in Orlando, which was really exciting to see all the different kind of product offerings that people are introducing to the space domain. It was hilarious. It's like impossible to not want to, immediately think of like a space relevant startup idea and try to raise money or something. But I walked out of that conference where it was like, get more involved. So that was really cool, kind of repositioning my own company to focus on certain things, which is awesome. And we're going to be radically focused on curating feedback insights and distributing that across organizations and trying to apply those insights to more things than selling. There's some cool like insider threat / social engineering things that you can kind of extract from feedback that we've been like playing with. So that has been really fun. And then won a really awesome bid for a client, or I got an opportunity to bid for a client with a really prominent defense partner. And that was really exciting because we didn't invest a ton in that proposal, and to get down selected against some of the big giants, like not non-traditional startup, like legit startup defense companies was cool. So a lot going on, man. How about yourself?
Tell me more about space. Tell me more about Space Power.
Space Power. So Space Power is so cool because it's like, my hair's outrageous, by the way. I just figured I'd call that out on video. It's been one of those months, man, just like hustling and grinding. Freaking Space Power is awesome because it's like really small, intimate setting for like a really cool community, like the space domain, where there's people that have software, there's people that have like small satellites, big satellites, people that sell into launch. There's just so many different areas that contribute to the space picture. And it's just such a small event. Like it's a high quality event in Orlando, really fun. It's got like the Orlando craziness going on, but there's probably like, 30 customer vendor booths, and like the senior enlisted person of the Space Force was there and had like a big huddle with all the Guardians. And it's just like that intimate, he was like just, inspiring them to like think differently about things, but it also wasn't like empty kind of cheering. It was like very specific and like vulnerable. It was a crazy setting to be in. And then on top of that, I got to pitch a product I'm building for a partner, which is an algorithm SDK, which is really cool, and get feedback on that. Algorithms are obviously a huge component of launch and like everything else in space, hashtag crunching numbers. And so we kind of built out a DevSec harness to kind of facilitate the management of algorithms in what used to be, traditionally they were written for like C applications, pretty static applications. Now, like every service is composable, and it's also dynamic, that like the kind of the structure that algorithms depend on, it kind of destroys that. So like we created a really cool open source kit for people to adopt and consume. And it's all, hardened algorithms and qualified algorithms. And we started small. We're focusing on Gaussian algorithms and Monte Carlos for now.
Is it like a iron bank for algorithms?
Dude, you nailed it. Yeah.
All right. There we go.
I love it. It's SFA. They're a cool organization. We know, we were talking about Alec recently. He was a really rock star.
Oh, that's the Space Force Association.
Yeah, Space Force Association. Okay. It's his. He was there volunteering, which was rad. So yeah, it's so cool. Like I can't wait to go next year. It's like it was that awesome.
Nice.
And I don't remember the last time I said that about any conference. Like conferences are so lame. Conferences like historically are pretty lame, and they had like some really cool, like very, very intimate conversations about like why we need to invest in space and like how much money is going into space. And like, it was just like people who were just kind of talking to you like you're in the room and like you're about to walk into another office and like go like solve problems together. It's just felt real. It wasn't like this like strange performance.
So one thing I've been thinking about in how to improve some things in the general remote work environment. I don't know if you have to deal with this in your customer calls or all, but the notion of recording all your calls. Does that happen? Do they want that? Do they don't want that?
Well, I'm in a weird situation because of the whole customer experience thing. Like I kind of, I'm almost incentivized to own the risk of capturing information and letting them just be as, kind of vulnerable as possible and create the safest environment as possible. And it's like impossible to do that as soon as you click recording, even if someone's like, oh yeah,
Right.
like, everyone's cognizant of like, this is like forever. It's going to be bits that are going to be uploaded somewhere. So it's like, yeah. So I deal with it, but I'm an idiot and I just try to like scribe as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, like I've been thinking of, because as you see, like there's some aspects of it that are fantastic to your point of, oh, good, I don't have to take notes, or, oh, if I forget something, I can do this. But also, again, like you're saying, often people won't really talk about what they really want to talk about, or what it really does. What I've noticed is it kills banter, which is kind of all you have in a remote culture to try to, get to know people at all. Say before a call, before the big person joins or the customer joins, and you're just kind of riffing with your coworkers, and then suddenly you realize, oh wait, this is being recorded. Like there's no downtime.
There's no
And so,
playfulness. Yeah.
yeah, no, it at all. And a number of times where actually someone will start just talking about something that would be totally normal to talk about, but you don't want recorded, and you'll have to
Yeah.
slack them quickly and be like, dude, shut up, and then we have to go back and like hunt down that recording before anyone finds it. And I've been kind of thinking like how to sort of bring that together. And the best I've come up with so far is just that the participants, before anyone else can see it, the participants get a chance to review and edit. And so some sort of tool built into the recording software that afterwards kind of, sends again, only the participants can access it, lets you cut stuff out, clarify, add in notes to clarify things before it gets published for other people to see it. Because there's absolute value, both from training, note taking, all kinds of things. But
Yeah.
the fact that you might accidentally say something or purposely say something, that you don't want immortalized. Like it's really,
Yeah.
they talk about, again, remote versus in person. And again, one of the things that I don't think comes up enough is that notion of you literally can't have real conversations remotely if everything's being recorded. And by definition, it's not recorded when you're in the office or with people face to face.
I was going to say, even if you don't click the recording button, there's still like this fear that there's some type of data being processed. It's never like,
Yeah.
as long as you're connected to tech, there's something being collected and kind of stored somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I've been kind of surprised that hasn't come out in any of the tools yet, of just this notion of sort of a gap time, where people can go in and make adjustments before it gets published to the world. I mean, I've had a few calls. I had one today where I wanted to try something with a customer that was kind of opposite of our standard process. And there was a good chance it was going to go horribly. And I was just like, I don't want to do this in front of the world. I want to try something, and if it goes south, I'll own it that it went south, and I'll tell people don't try this, but I don't need that immortalized, for example. And so I just,
You become like the sales training. You become the sales training video of what
Yeah.
not to do.
Exactly, completely against your will. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's not cool. And because again, and the behavior that incentivizes is again just very bland, like you're reading a script, on a call with customers, which that's not how you build trust, in relationships. So yeah, I just hit stop, and then we're just
or scale or anything, like that's not how you, like there's only downside, right? Like, and I think that's one of the hidden recipes I see in a lot of successful businesses. And you see it most often with small businesses because you can like maintain that culture. But when you're like genuinely authentic, genuinely like vulnerable, and you can create the combination of like your product offerings combined with like your brand DNA, combined with like your internal culture, and you merge that all together and it all becomes like super fun and authentic. And there's like really cool little playbooks for how you like pitch your stuff. And people are just like used to phrasing things a certain way. Like it just creates sequences where you can be yourself. You don't have to like, it's not playbooks in the way that it's like you need to follow this in order to be a good salesperson. It's like playbooks and like just little like almost like design systems for how you like communicate your products and like talk about the value that you provide. And it's playful though. It's not like, prescribed. It's like, it's obvious. It comes natural.
right. And like for this, for example, you and I know explicitly that if, if we get tongue tied or say something, you're like, oh, I wasn't supposed to share that it will get edited out. That, there's that chance for us to do that here. And so you can just talk, and you do not have that on calls at work that are just recorded by the machine.
Dude,
so that's something.
What would be so cool is like, I quoted the other day. So I made a LinkedIn post the other day about like imperfection being the new novelty post, like AI being operationalized. Like that's a prediction.
Right. Yep. That was a great post.
Will be a beautiful, fun feature that people enjoy. And we do enjoy it. I love things that are like not perfect and screwed up. It's like real, it's life, It's like Alan Watts makes that. It's not exactly the same exact theme, but it's a similar, or it's not the same exact quote, similar theme. Alan Watts says like, we stop seeing magic in the world when we like stop, or we lose joy when we stop seeing magic in the cracks in the ground or something like that. And it's like, it's like, kids find fun and joy in like imperfections and like weird quirks around them in their environments. And it's absolutely true for everything. And like the sterileness of like AI and like getting everything right and perfection, it's like weird and like unnatural. So I think, you're all seeing people to resist it, but in that same line, I'll get to the point. I'm sorry, I'm a rambler. You know me. What I think would be cool is like another quote. So I the first thing I wrote down was like imperfection is the new novelty post AI. The next thing I wrote down was tech implementation so perfect that you don't even recognize it, where it's just like around you and taking care of you and like genuinely interested in your best interests at the cost of the AI's perfection or comfort or whatever they determine as right or success, right? And where it's like you're describing this video and it's like if you had agents that knew who you were, they could like edit that stuff out and be like, this is the version you wanted of your, you know what I'm saying? Or it's like, what I'm saying? They almost protect you against the network. They protect you against like, big data.
That is super interesting. Speaking of AI, that's the other thing I've been playing with. Was I was sort of given a challenge by a local mentor. We were talking about AI, and he's like, what I really would like is some agent to go through my inbox. He's like, I've got 100 newsletters a day. He's a scientist, and he says 5% of what's in those newsletters is interesting to me, and I can't find it. Amidst the noise, I just don't have time. And so he's like, hey, do you think you can write something that'll do that? I was like, I don't know. Let me ask ChatGPT. And so I'm actually cranking along now of just simply saying, hey, ChatGPT, how would I build such a thing? And then going through the steps, which started with, well, you need, in this case was an Azure account to get Active Directory ID so that you can sign in with a token, to the email server and then pull this back in. It's all in Python, but it's just this. I'm not even trying with special prompts, really. I'm just like, hey, what do I do? And it says this, like, okay, I tapped that in. I got this error. What do you think? Try this. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, try this. Okay, it's working now. Okay, now my screen has this weird thing. I take a screenshot, upload it. Oh, yeah, here's your problem. Check this box here. It's crazy.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
And so it's just this notion of how you can learn. I have no idea how to do this thing. And I just like, hey, show me how to do this. It's also the thing I've been learning.
Oh,
yeah.
I was gonna say awesome product concept, and do you have a name for it?
I don't yet, because I still feel there must be something already fully out there commercial that does this, but I haven't really found like the finding interesting tidbits in your inbox seems to be the afterthought of products who are mostly focused on generating emails for you rather than pulling little bits out so far. So I'm doing both because I do want to help. I do want to provide a good outcome. So I'm looking commercially, but also just as an exercise to see what I can build on that.
What's interesting about AI, right? And it's not even just AI. It's like any emerging tech. It like kind of allows people who may have had similar ideas. Like it allows you to reincept ideas that weren't successful when certain architecture wasn't in place, conceptual dependencies weren't in place and stuff. So even if it seems so obvious, like a lot of the foundational things that would make, the business side of this more feasible didn't really exist. Like, the fact that
it would have taken forever to get to even just to the point of pulling the email out of the server and displaying it on the screen. Like the number of just things I had to set up if I was to not even know, to figure out A, what to do, and then B, how to do each of those things through just web searches. I don't know. I don't know if it would have happened. Versus
So
this,
true.
it's just so smooth so far. The two key, and also though, what's crazy is just it's a good exercise in just learning the gaps in AI now for sure. Like a number of times, I'm like, hey, this is the error I'm getting, and it's like, well, try this. No, that didn't work, and it's like, well, then it might be, and it starts making stuff up, and finally, I was like, I cheated. I went to the web and I looked up that error, and there was like a post from last month that said, yeah, we deprecated this. Here's the new thing to do. But because the AI ends in September 2022, not only did it know about that, but it doesn't even have the concept that it might not know. And so as soon as I said, hey, can you check the web and see if this is still the right thing to do? And immediately came back and was like, oh, no, do this instead. So,
Dude, the paid versions are insane. Like the ones that are real time that like query the web. Which one?
I'm paying something. It's just the
For GPT?
Chat GPT. Yeah. The
4.0
normal
should
one.
be straight. Like 4.0, Gemini, and
Huh.
Claude 3.5. Like I'll ask it something and it'll send me like information from articles that like a news agency posted today.
Huh. I wonder what's up, because similarly,
Yeah.
we at work we wanted to find out we heard there was a new CTO at one of our big customers, and
Yeah.
so one of us typed in, okay, who's the CTO of this company, and it came back, and it was someone from like 2020. Like, that's weird. And so then we said, check the web, and then it came back, oh yeah, last month they hired this person. So that's interesting. I'll have to look in to figure out what triggers the Insta scrape or not. But then the other thing was, after a while, I was getting
I loved your
certain
response.
results
I'm
back.
paying I loved your response. I'm paying for something.
Yeah, I expect everything. But the other thing was that I'd finally get something working, and like where it was summarizing the text and all via various methods, and I was just like, these summaries just aren't very good. And I just said, is there a better way to do this? And it said, oh yeah, do this instead. And it turned out, and that path using that library and those functions produced much better results. So it will happily let you roll down the wrong rabbit hole. And so those are the two things I learned of, like, you have to regularly say, is this really the latest information? And or if you're hitting some roadblock, to be sure to ask, hey, can you check again, see if something's changed, and then regularly stop. Because when you're working with people, ideally in a group, there's at least someone in the group who's always kind of checking, wait. Are we thinking, let's keep the real problem in mind, and try to avoid these local maxima of like, oh, we've done a great job of solving this little problem that isn't really what we're really trying to do. Like, that was just a small thing. And usually in a group, someone's there reminding you, what's the real problem we're trying to solve here? And is this the right way to do it? Versus just heading down a rabbit hole. And ChatGPT at least gives you none of that. It will just let you run down the wrong path. If you ask, it'll be happy. Oh yeah. Here's a better idea.
Yeah.
But you have to ask. So that's been a something hot on the plate lately. And then, kind of related, and this is, I was interested to hear when you were talking about, getting user feedback and things and sharing that across organizations, and how that might mix into just feedback in general across an organization. And if you've seen anything that works well there, or if what you're working on might solve that, where I've seen a lot of teams that have great feedback up and down the chain. So a manager giving feedback on their team member, the team members giving feedback on their manager. And so, that doesn't always work well, but I've seen that work well. And so at least you get a chain of people who are reviewing each other. But what I've almost never seen at small and big companies is the notion of feedback across disciplines or orgs or chains. So what you get is these silos who you can have two outcomes. One, they're firing on all cylinders and they're cranking, but they can't get much done because the other disciplines aren't doing their jobs, because up and down the chain is kind of mediocre, and they're all reviewing each other saying they're doing a great job. And so they don't even realize that no one can get anything done because they're not doing a good job. Because there's not that notion where one discipline has a reasonable way that won't trigger, defensiveness and antibodies or getting in trouble, but just to surface, hey, we're not happy with what we're getting from your entire team who all think each other's great. I don't know. Have you seen
Yeah.
anything that helps companies through that, or organizations?
I think I'm in that boat right now. I'm like in the trenches trying to figure that exact problem out right now. I think what I started with was I did like a service design for one of the core customer journeys for my client. So we went from like, customers interested, deal conversion through billing, through like setting up an enterprise account to handing off to a technical team that actually builds out the pipelines, which is the product, and it's like tied to the experience. What's fun is like during that entire journey, different people have to gather data that influences the success of the pipeline build out. And so many times you go to build the pipeline out, and from like, a variety of things, from like technical fit discussions or understanding, the people that they're onboarding are agile software development entities. So companies and organizations and teams, and they might not know what their exact reference architecture is going to be 3 months down the line when these pipelines are built. The pipelines are very opinionated. So they're built per microservice or whatever, and they're built per microservice. So there's all these like really interesting things that like affect each other. So what ends up happening is like you map out the current customer workflow front to back, kind of like the sequence that everyone kind of subscribes to. Obviously, there's like variables in there that change and affect different things. And then you look at the customer feedback and and some complaint that, happened in a certain section might actually be caused by something that happened way earlier on, or could have been mitigated by something that happened way earlier on. So we've been using these like really rich customer feedback points as anchors to bring the entire team together to be like, how could, essentially like cross division retrospectives where you have like sales professionals, contracting and business professionals, pricing folks and go-to-market growth people, and then like engineers that are actually executing some of these orders that are coming through, all kind of looking at the same problem through different lenses. And then we collectively try to reduce the seams and address that problem from every angle. And it starts with creating a vulnerable environment where everyone shares the risk collectively. And
how do you do that?
I mean, it's hard. You got to get your reps in. You have to build trust. It's not like an overnight thing. I think like it starts with smaller customer feedback points, and then you find some of like the Armageddon hard ones. And then when you get those Armageddon hard ones where people are like, I'm pulling my stuff off your platform, I'm not doing this anymore. That's when you're like, all right, everyone's safe, but feels collectively safe enough to solve the problem. And it's like I always compare it to like Stranger Things, like friends riding on their bicycle towards a monster to slay. Like I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really like the vibe you want to get to. Like you all want to be pedaling towards like this like interdimensional beast to destroy together. And it's cool. And like and the other side of that, right, is successfully creating this good, candid environment where customers are, angry enough to give you the feedback you need, and they're not just trying to slice people apart, or they're like on the journey with you and it's like very, very constructive, and they want to see you be successful, and they want to see you take this feedback and like untangle some of this junk. And that's the real kind of trigger for all of this, because you can walk, a bunch of technical feedback that just like gets people pissed off, and they start doing like the solutions architect browbeating kind of technical jousting thing. And then you can't action it. You can't solve those problems collectively. You can't create that monster for everyone to slay on your team. So that's kind of how I've been working through it. And it's been successful so far. We've had legitimate actionable feedback where I think there are going to be high ROI features we've implemented that would like affect other customers, because they're overarching themes that we see recurring. And it's like they got so bad that we had to address them as a team, stuff like that.
Yeah. Maybe that's back to the AI and actually the recorded calls thing of, if the AI is the impartial judge who's like, you know what, I can tell you all don't trust each other, and here's what I'm observing that, I think is probably causing the lack of trust. Like things that the impartial AI could say things that like just people can't say to each other. Like it's too raw. People get triggered. Whereas if something else was observing, I mean, because people do like you have, obviously there's like counselors, facilitators, and things that do that in the small scale, but in every call, I mean, like I've been on so many calls that they were just, I do not trust half the people on the call,
Yeah.
but like on the call, you're all friendly and happy and acting like
Oh,
everything's
yeah.
great. And then you go and then you're just like, yeah, we're not going to get done what we need to do. And it's unclear what to do about that because there's, if you
Yeah.
bring it up, you're not going to, that almost never ends well in most environments because if it were the type of environment where you could bring up, where people aren't getting along or you have a concern with someone, that just doesn't happen nearly as often. It's almost by
Yes.
definition, a group you could bring up problems to has fewer problems.
Anytime you, in my opinion, and like this is such a like, simplified view of the world, and kind of, it could be short-sighted or whatever, but like, anytime there's like dysfunction across teams and people like trying to railroad each other or like have more ownership over a problem, like it's usually there's some type of like risk ownership slash accountability slash incentivization issue where your system doesn't force people to partner with other people that are better at doing things because they can spread risk really easily. And anytime you do that, it just invites dysfunction because like you can take risk out on behalf of somebody else and do the job that they would have done for them and then do a bad job and then not be held accountable for it. And that's like, that is like a lot of government situations, right? And especially at like the enterprise level, like when you have people in the trenches doing work, it's a lot more transparent to like, you own the stick here. I could possibly cover down and do your job for you, but like if I screw up, I took this away from you and took the opportunity away from you to problem with me, and I took that risk and screwed up. But at like the C-suite or like the executive level or maybe even like the managerial level, it's all very like flexible and floaty, and they can like railroad people and like redirect risk or take risk out on behalf of people and then not be held accountable for it. And that's when you see the dysfunction. Because like, and so the way, in my opinion, the way that you start to minimize that is like you create a success driving system that really kind of makes all of that extremely transparent and puts a lot of pressure on people so they don't try to put themselves into a position where they're taking risk on if they can't deliver. And then they try to find specialists, they try to find more capacity to like be able to solve problems. And then like, it's not this whole, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you backstop that? Because it feels like you have to have an arbiter of success or failure, because everything you said, I absolutely agree with, of, risk has to be in the right place and then you're taking responsibility. But if the same person who is taking on the risk and who isn't performing doesn't recognize failure, then they learn, like there's no backstop to it. There has to be someone there saying, hey, you lost that account, not because the customer was difficult. It was because you didn't do a great job, frankly.
Yeah. There's got to be decentralized governance of that in some way, shape, or form, whether it's like straight up blockchain or like just a system that people subscribe to that like is enforced by like a collective, at the C-suite level. There needs to be decentralized governance of good, neutral, and bad. And that's the only way
like
it
if
works,
you lose
right?
the account and if you're sitting there telling someone, no, it was because the customer didn't do this or they wanted this, and then just the voice goes, no, it was your fault.
Well, I'm a nut. So like, let me get nutty for a second. I'm real wacky.
Yeah.
So as like an Intel analyst, this will be a fun story. I'm like a pretty anxious person, right? Because as an Intel analyst, I kind of had two responsibilities. I like found bad people and I protected good people. And in each situation, there was like a ton of risk on the back end of not being successful. And what I still live that way today with like my family. Like if my family was in here, my wife and kids, they'd be like teasing me about it. But like every situation is modelable, right? Not to sound cliche, but like data is all around us. So like on these sales calls, regardless of what the outcome is, there's a probability if they come in there, pissed off or unhappy because you like had you were the reason they had a cybersecurity incident or whatever. Obviously, the probability that like they're gonna like reject whatever you're gonna do is like 93%. But there's 7% where you can like wiggle and maneuver and change that. You're not starting in a good position, but you control everything, and it's all controlled by like your relationship with the data in your environment. 100%. It's the same thing with intelligence. Like every single situation is, you can mitigate every situation. You can fix, prevent anything from happening. There's leading and lagging indicators for everything. And it's just like some of them are more apparent than others. And the ones that aren't apparent, that have high ROI or really protect people from really, really high risk things, happen to have a big dollar value associated with them. And that's kind of how I view the world. And it's like Intel 101. It's like everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
People are
psychotic,
hard.
but people tease, it's people, but it's situations too. You're looking at weather, you're looking at environments, you're looking at like any type of like opportunity that you can't control or kind of going back to, transfers risk to you, right? Like that's kind of what you're looking at. And my like Shanice always teases me and compares me to what's his name? Dude, I'm so tired from the week, but who's the comedian from Dodgeball? Ben Stiller.
Oh, uh-huh.
Right? Ben Stiller. Yeah. So
I'm sure Ben Stiller would love that the movie you pulled out as the comedian from is Dodgeball, like, which was a great
hilarious
movie, but
well,
for
they were
everything
just
else he's
watching it.
done.
This movie ever. It's hilarious. But like
Yeah.
Ben Stiller in Along Came Polly, where he's like that risk, gate insurance guy that like goes or tries to get, dude, that is like what a lot of what Intel is, right? Like if you're doing the force protection stuff, trying to protect people, property, assets, like you're doing like risk gauging, and you have a variety of inputs and stuff. But like, and the same thing is for every call, right? You just might be at a disadvantage if you enter a call after a situation, but like everyone can control their destiny. It's just some people are in bad situations. So if you're in let's go back to the sales call. If someone's screwed up on the sales, making excuses, if they were like a normal customer that they then incentivized to leave or pissed off on the call, which it started with like 80%, they're on your team, they're going to buy another 20%, they're going to find a reason not to work with you. And you kind of switch that and change that percentage to being like, wow, this company sucks. I never want to talk to this account manager again. I'd rather pay more just to not have to see this person. Like that is like you accrued arbitrary risk for your sales team and your growth team. But,
Right.
and that comes down to the data and the nuance. But if it's like you had a cybersecurity incident, you're being sent in as a fixer to try to save something that's like almost unsavable. There's a 7% upside if you like play games and like they somehow, it's fascinating, but like that's how people need to look at all these situations. Engineers look at stuff that way, but like business managers, people in like, soft positions, I feel like don't.
Yeah. Yeah. As we're talking, the more and more I'm wanting, and this is probably a terrible idea, if we're to turn out, but just again, like the AI to be the neutral arbiter where we're like
the neutral arbiter.
How like sometimes during a call, and if someone's just, being a jackass, you probably have a little private chat going to, a buddy on the call going, yeah, what's this guy doing? Like, this is ridiculous. How do we stop him? I want to be able to do that to the AI, sending off chats, like, watch what he's saying now. Here's my take that this is not the right thing to do for the customer. I could be wrong, but like, I want to log my observation that this is not
imagine
the performance that we need and have it kind of collect, from everybody.
Yeah.
And then you get like your official meeting notes and summary and whatnot. But then you also get the like, here's a collation of all the anonymous private chats so that there's some neutral way to call people out. Because back to if their manager isn't very good and doesn't realize that their reports aren't doing a great job. And again, it's very good. I just mean like they need some training or aren't aware of things. They're just not doing a great job.
Yeah, I see.
But if you don't have someone who you can tell anonymously, because obviously the odds of, again, you going to their boss or whatever and saying, here's my concerns, of that going well are slim. It takes unique people and trust to be able to do that. And so, but the alternative is nothing and just mediocrity spreading. And so maybe I don't know, maybe that's there's a potential solution there of, again, the neutral arbiter of suck.
I think the neutral arbiter of suck would be awesome. It would be cool if there was like, not that I don't think like just reinforcement training or like, scrutiny is bad or whatever, but like, I think it would be cool also to have recommendations for the rest of the team who's on the call to say like, oh, now's the time to jump in and stop this from happening. Not in like a negative way, but like, hey, I recommend you should jump in and maybe add this and kind of pull the conversation back to this topic instead because it's getting weird. Or whatever,
Well, at the same time, maybe flashing red on the person's screen saying you should stop talking now.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny. Have you used Fathom?
No.
Fathom's like my favorite kind of CX tool. It's like you can like it's kind of like what's the classic one that everyone uses, the chatbot that joins like calls. I'm trying to think of the name. Whatever.
Oh, I mean, there's Gong.
Yeah, it's similar to Gong, but it's like SOC compliant. It's SOC 2, it's HIPAA, it's It's got like a lot of the cool box checks, so that's why I use it. And its UI is nice, but it tells you your percentage of talking and stuff, and like how much the other.
Yes, we have that. I've seen that.
Which I love, which is cool because it's great for sales and just especially when you're chatterbox like me, it's like a good way to police yourself up.
Yeah, and it's good because there's not always a right or wrong, but it just makes you aware. And because if you look at it and you're like, well, this was a demo, so it was okay that I talked more, but and the other one was a discovery meeting. Okay, that I probably should have shut up, and listened more.
You know what I'm finding fascinating too? Like, I think we've entered such a cool era where everyone's used tech forever, like everyone's like, it's just so natively integrated into a lot of things we do. It's not integrated in the way that I described, where it's like you don't even realize it exists. Like it's still very intentional. You like hold a phone and you like send a message, or you like type on a keyboard, or you plug your mic in. Like it's very still in our world. But I love the trends where tech has become so convenient that it's like so sterile and like numb to everyone. Like where like email marketing is a joke now, in my opinion, especially for B2B. Like I think print marketing is like absolutely resurgence, and it's all about quirky creativity to get somebody to like get their hands on something and make them feel like super special. It's like how you an experience. Even like typed or signed or handwritten messages are coming back. Like I love that, how like because of tech being so expected and kind of like just low quality,
because every proposal, every application, they're all going to look identical because everybody will have run it through the same tool that says make this match that.
Oh, it's disgusting. Yeah. It's all all tech to me, all tech and the content that's being created by most LLMs and people. Obviously, this isn't just like a blanket statement, but a lot of it feels to me like Amazon, where you don't have brand anything anymore. It's all like weird, fake, overnight LLCs with like a bunch of fake logos on like really cheap plastic that you have no idea like how it was tested or approved or whether it's like good for you or bad for you. Like I feel like everything's so cheap now. No one has time because everyone's like rushing to like random content meeting to talk about things that are like maybe valuable. Like I could see after this whole like kind of new tech rat race post COVID, there's going to be a crazy transition to like, let's create real tangible value again. And it already happens in some places. Like, and those people and those places are dominating the market. But I think for like the small businesses, people are going to find really cool niches by like viewing the world that way.
Yeah, cool. Well, speaking of crazy tech and tangible value, since we have no idea what's going to happen when I attempt to actually edit and publish this, I'm pretty sure I hit record, so we should have something here. But let's cool. Bring it to a close today. Limit the blast radius and save some for next time. But this has been great, Rob. We made it to 10 episodes. We shall continue to the 11th, but this is a big milestone I'm excited about. Hopefully you are too.
Same here, Mark. This is awesome. It's like the perfect way to roll right into the holidays.
Yes. Excellent. Well, we shall resume in the new year. Great to see you, Rob.
Great to see you too, Mark.